Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Lysecki. I'm the CTO of LMN, and in this morning's webinar, I'm going to talk about, well, our biggest new feature that just got released this morning, which is the customer portal, but we'll also give you an overview of all the new functions and features, or most of them, that we built into this update as well. Super excited to join everybody. Great, amazing turnout in terms of attendees. So thank you all for taking a few minutes out of your time this morning to join us. Hopefully I can give you enough overview here in this brief half an hour we have together to show you the key benefits and the main points. And then by all means, if you have questions after, feel free to reach out to us at support and we'll answer specific questions for you. So without further ado, we'll dive right in. So what got launched today? Well, it's our brand new customer portal as the main function. A few other suggestions, improvements, bug fixes, of course, but the customer portal is the highlight of this release. What the customer portal is designed to do is change the way that you have relationships with your customers to make it far easier to do business with you. The customer portal is a website that your customers can log into and see information about the services that you provide for them. This can include, and I say can because it's certainly customizable, it can include a dashboard timeline which shows them what's going on their jobs. It can show job schedules. It can show the details of each visit, including photos. It can show invoices that they owe you, and they can pay those invoices online with credit cards. Now, as we expand the customer portal in future releases, we'll also have more functionality, including things like approving estimates and requesting extra services. And those things are coming out shortly. But further now, let's dive into the portal in more detail. So the major new features in this release include, of course, the customer portal that we just talked about. That is by far the biggest one. Also included in this release, though, we've built a brand new tool to help you create invoicing milestones for install projects. So for those of you who do both service and install projects, on the service side, you'll know that in your estimates, you've been able to build sort of a timeline of invoices, monthly usually. Well, now we've added that same functionality to invoicing estimate jobs, installation jobs. And the payments now are structured in slightly different because obviously it's not a monthly thing in install. So we'll show you how that works as well. For those who use LMN Basic, you now have access to invoices, which you didn't have before, which is a big new addition for you. And we'll show you how that works. Certainly for those of you with Pro, you've got a lot more time-saving tools with invoices, including bulk generation. So there's still that advantage there to keep your invoices quick. And then finally, online payments is the major new feature. So we'll talk about that and the payment processor that we've set up. Let me now take you right into the application and have a look. So starting now on my screen, I'm into a standard estimate screen. And I want to show you first the setup of the progress billing for standard estimates. It's not the customer portal yet. We'll save that for a few minutes, but just want to show you how the milestone invoicing is going to work for standard estimates. Here I've got a standard estimate. I've already got some work areas set up and the estimate's just over $60,000 in price. If I go to the contract tab, I can now use this button over here to add milestones. Now, when we use the add milestones button, what happens is we get a modal window and I can choose how I want to create my milestones. I can either use the entire estimate value or I can break up my milestones by work area or cost code. I'm just going to use estimate for simplicity. Let's say we want to break this estimate up into 4 payments. So I'll choose 4 here. And I have the option of creating those payments by percentage or by dollar value. I'll use percentage. So we'll call milestone 1 the deposit. And we'll say that's 15%. Milestone 2 will be on hardscape completion. And of course, you can customize these any way you see fit. And at this point, we'll want another 30%. And you can see at the bottom here, it's now totaling these up for me as I go. Now this will be Softscape installed. And again, we'll ask for another 30%. And now I've got my final payment. You've got the option here to type in the final payment, or you can just click the calculator and LMN will automatically do the math for you and calculate that remaining balance. Once that's complete, you hit add, and that's it. You've set up your milestones. Now these milestones will translate all the way into LMN time when you create your jobs. So if I flash here to a job that I've already created in LMN time, you'll see this is what this looks like. Now, if you've been generating invoices with LMN time in the past, you'll know that they get generated when the invoice date is due. So for example, for my monthly service invoices, once that date comes due, it'll get picked up by the generate routine and automatically invoice that job. Well, install jobs work a little differently, of course, because when we're estimating the job, we don't know what date that invoice is going to be ready. We don't know exactly when the hardscapes will be complete. So how it comes over in LMN time looks sort of like this. You get your invoice milestones. And now I have two options here. When I am ready to invoice for the deposit, for example, I can click the ready button and then I can apply a date. We'll just do yesterday, for example, and I'll go set. Now it's ready to create an invoice on this date. And I can either generate the invoice using the generate routine, which is useful if you have, say, an operations manager that isn't responsible for creating invoices. They can go in here and set the date as ready, indicating this milestone is ready for invoicing, but they don't have permission to actually create the invoice. That's done by somebody in accounting. So this button over here, invoice, wouldn't show up. However, if you have full permissions like I do, the other option is I can just click the invoice button immediately, and that'll create an invoice right away for that milestone, and then we're ready with the customer. I'll show you a little bit more how to get that invoice in the portal in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at how to set up the portal. If you're interested in the customer portal setup, the first spot you're going to want to go to is your account menu. Now, when we set this up, it'll get started by your security admin. So not everybody has access to this menu. So we'll go to the account menu down here. It's in LMN estimating. And then over here, I'm going to go to portal setup. Now the portal setup allows you to configure your defaults to the customers. So before we dive into this, let's just take a quick look at what the portal is designed to do. So the portal is designed to show customers job schedules, job actual activity, job photos, and allow them to see, review, pay their invoices, and also see the status of their payments. And of course, along with that, customers can put their credit card in. A couple of things that you need to know. Well, when you're looking at the portal, we always, as we beta tested it and as we talked about it, we would always get concerns from some contractors about the level of information or level of transparency we're showing. How much you show each customer is entirely up to you. So you can configure it at a company level, or you can configure it right down to each customer and show and hide specific things. Because obviously everybody's got their own flair for what they like to be transparent with and what they don't. But I'll give you some advantages to being more transparent with your customer in this brief conversation. And it's based on our actual history as a landscape contractor. When we found we could track, as we launched the app for ourselves, sort of live status of our activities out in the field, certainly made our operations job far easier. But we still dealt with the phone calls, et cetera, from clients looking for reports, looking for updates, looking for statuses. And for anybody who does snow, all that is condensed into these little tiny windows with a flurry of activity, and you know what that's like. So as we struggled with our customer communication, we decided, well, we're going to put this live. And we used a tool, which is still out there now, called Job Site Watch. And what that allowed our customers to do is to log in and see what was happening at their job sites. Our new customer portal gives you the ability to do the same thing. And some people have wondered, like, well, do I really want my customers to see all that information? And in some cases, you won't. And by all means, you can turn off any of the information that you don't want to show. But let me just allow you for a minute to absorb the benefits of maybe showing your customers more information. So number one is differentiation. If I'm putting in a bid for either a maintenance contract, maybe even an install contract, but certainly for a snow and ice contract, I'm bidding my services against every other contractor. And in many cases, we're all basically bidding the same set of services. Any differentiation you can have in your bids can be hugely advantageous, both at a way to command a slightly higher price, but also as a way to win the bid over competitors based on extra services. Now, the portal gives your customers some really distinct advantages. One is they can see their job site activity in real time, what's happening. And that gives the customer a better feeling of trust. I'll give you a quick example. In the old days where we used to manage, or I used to manage a snow event, I'd get a call from a customer, usually in the middle of the night or very, very early in the morning. And it was often during an ongoing event. And they wanted to know why their property hadn't been cleared yet. Now, maybe it had, maybe it hadn't. But when we were all on paperwork, I'd have to call my driver to see where they were at, whether they'd been there or not. And if they were there, why the customer's asking if they haven't been done. And sometimes it was because it was still snowing. And so even though the driver had been there a couple hours ago, it's still snowing. The customer portal allowed our customers a new level of professional communication. Rather than hearing from us, we don't know what's happening. Let me get back to you in a few minutes, and I'd have to do my phone calls and then call them back. Now we could say, just check your portal. It'll show us live, or we could check it for them, and we would have an instant answer. So there's a giant difference for the customer when they call in and they say, is something happening? And we can say immediately, yes, it's happened, or no, it's not, and here's the status. Now we could take that with the portal a step even further. They don't even have to contact us. They can simply log in and check for themselves. And what that does is makes it easier for them to have the reassurance that we've been there, that we've done the services. It makes it easier for them to spot discrepancies if there is any. And it takes a load off us because we don't have to answer the phone and answer the phone twice, once the incoming call and then once having to call the customer back to give them information. So we've given them a new level of service, but also a new level of transparency and honesty. We're basically saying, hey, when we do something, we're going to do what we say we're going to do, and you're going to see it. And so there's no hiding from that. Now, in some cases, that'll expose some weaknesses for you, but in the vast majority of cases, our contractors do what they say they're going to do. And so therefore, showing the customer that gives them a level of confidence, gives them a level of trust, and most especially when you're selling the job. When you're bidding against other contractors and you can offer this service in your sales process, this gives that customer a new level of trust and transparency. And in the cases, not only in snow, but in maintenance, when there are things in the contract that need to get done and the contractors and the customers want to ensure they're getting done or feel that their old contractors have been taking shortcuts, this is a way to get around that and give the customers a new level of trust. It's helped us land bids with cities, with infrastructure like transportation projects. It's helped us win bids with large clients. And already we've seen some of our LMN clients use Job Site Watch to get the same advantages. So a long rant on differentiation there, but it's the most important part of the customer portal. The second most important part is that it makes you the easiest partner to do business with. If I'm a customer and I have a contractor working for me, I can log in, I can see where the contractor's been and when they've been. I can see photos of my jobs being completed. I can see the invoices and I can pay these invoices online. It's a heck of a lot easier to do business with you than somebody that I have to call in for status updates, wait for reports, wait for invoices, and send checks in the mail. I would far rather keep my overhead low as a customer and deal business with companies that can make doing business with them easy. The third point, it improves retention and of course trust. We talked about trust in the sales process, but when you get into renewing contracts, it's a lot harder for customers to renew elsewhere when they're used to that extra level of service you've given them. If you're giving them a way to view their services online, that may become part of their tender. We've certainly seen that in our own experience. When we first offered this to some of our clients, subsequent tenders years later included a stipulation that the contractor had to give them live updates. And of course, most of our competitors couldn't offer that service, which made it that much easier for us to retain the work. It also establishes just a new benchmark for trust and accountability, a level that most customers aren't used to seeing, won't have seen before, and once they get it, won't want to leave. And then finally, the last point, I just want to reemphasize that. For those of you who are still uncomfortable about showing certain data, and I'm going to show it right now, it is customizable. You can set up whatever you want to show your customers and whatever you don't want, and you can set it up at a company level, and again, customize it for each and every single one of your customers if you have specific customers that you want to show more or less to. And what I'm looking at now is your account default screen. So all the way back here to LMN, under the account menu under portal setup. This is where I would set up my company defaults. Here I can choose whether I want to show customer schedules, whether I want to show actual services rendered, and what information on those actual services. So I have the ability to control what the customers see. Now these are the defaults. Every time I add a new customer to the portal, these are the settings that they will inherit. But of course I can change these for any customer at any time. We've got a live map on our customer site. So really useful for customers that have multiple job sites and want to track statuses of multiple sites at once. Their sites will show up on a map with push pins, and the push pins will be color coded by the last time we serviced them. In snow and ice, you may want to keep these service windows fairly tight, like today and yesterday and within the last week, so they can see events. As you're dealing with summer maintenance contracts, you probably want to expand these intervals to show, have we been there this week? Have we been there in the last 2 weeks? Have we been there in the last month, kind of thing. So you can flex that again based on seasons. You'll want your company logo to show up in the portal, so that's where you're going to upload that. And now we've got a new tool when you do upload that allows you to trim your logo to fit the space, makes it a little easier to get a logo to fit nicely. You'll get your own customized portal link. So this portal link will be the link to your specific customer portal, which will include your logo. Your customers will log in with a username and password, and that's how they'll see their stuff. But by using this link, you can make sure your login page has your logo on it and your company name. You could also add this link to your company website or Facebook or Instagram, and customers can access the portal straight from your website. And the third part here is I've already enabled online payments. Now we'll have more training on online payments. This is just more of a show, but this is where you would connect your online merchant account. And a merchant account is what you need to set up in order to be able to accept credit card payments online. Once you enter your merchant account, and it's super simple, all you need is your ID, your username, your password, and the currency you do business in, you're ready to go. You can start accepting transactions. It's really that simple once you get started. For those of you that haven't set this up, there'll be a link right here to reach out to set up a merchant account, and we'll handhold you through that, through the whole process. Very simple. Usually can turn that around in 24 hours or less. You'll also have a link here where you can review your online transactions. This will be a portal which will show you every credit card transaction, fees paid, all that kind of stuff. And should you ever need to disable your payments, you can do that right here. So here's your portal setup, the defaults. Now we can get in and I'll show you the contacts. So the portal setup now to be set up for a customer has been added to the CRM screen. Each CRM contact has a portal setup tab. And as you can see, once you've activated the portal for a customer, and there'll be one step to do that first, now I get all my settings here for the customer. They will come in as the same settings as my company default, but here's where now I get to customize them. So for this customer particularly, if I had to show GPS, I can choose that there. And that's what gives me that flexibility to show different customers different sets of information depending on what they need to see, or in some cases what I want that customer to see. So I've got that set up here. I can also click the portal users tab and see the users that I've invited or who've accepted my invitation to the portal and who are logging in and what their role is. Customers have 3 different types of roles: an admin, accounting, so somebody who can pay invoices, and then just a basic. So if your customers have a user, they just want to see, say, the status of work, but they don't want to be able to see invoices or estimates or anything like that, there's a role for that as well. And to invite your customers, you just click here to send your customer invite. You'll be able to link directly to this customer's contacts, for example, and it'll add their email automatically in there, and you click OK, and it's that simple. They'll get an email inviting them to join the portal. They'll set up their account with a username and password, and they're good to go. Let's take a quick look at LMN time now, very briefly, and then we'll jump into the portal itself. On LMN time, the major change on the job screen is going to be this invoicing section here. So for basic users, it'll be brand new to you that you'll see it. And for estimating users, you'll see again how those invoicing milestones carried over. Now, you don't need to set up the portal on the jobs here. Once you set up your portal in CRM, active jobs will automatically appear on the portal for you. If the job is inactive, it won't appear on the portal. So it's that simple. And again, customers are obviously only going to see the jobs that are assigned to them. They won't see any other jobs that you have set up. Let's take a look now at the customer portal itself. So opening another tab here, I've got the customer portal, and I'll walk you through the views from top to bottom. So here's where you're going to see your company logo. That'll be customized there. And the user's going to see their own name there so they know who they're logged in as. The default view on the dashboard is this timeline view. So the timeline view has each date. The job site name will appear here. The in and out times will appear here if you've turned some on and off, depends on what you're wanting to show. And if I've taken a photo of the job site while we're there, it'll also appear here. Now I may have multiple photos, and I'll get to that in a second. Another way a customer can see their job status is by looking at the live map, and they'll find that under the job sites menu. And we spoke about this a couple of minutes ago when we were setting up the portal. Customers have the ability to see, or with multiple job sites anyway, to see a live map. Now this won't show up for customers with one job site because it's not that useful. They'll use the timeline. But for customers with multiple job sites, they'll see map markers. And the map markers are color coded by those intervals we set up on the portal. So very quickly, customers can tell that you've been to the sites that you said you were going to go to, and you did the services that you said you were going to complete. Now, if they want any detail on those services, they can do that in one of two ways. Over here on the right side, they can click any one of these job sites, or they can just click the marker on the map. The marker on the map will show the job site name and address, and then any visits completed, at least the last 5, will show up as tabs here across the top of the screen. So you can see here, I'm looking at a visit on Tuesday, April 14th at 10:20. Now the information I've chosen to share with the client will show up here as well, and that could include things like task name, in and out times, services completed, crew notes, and of course, visit photos. And the customer has the ability to look at these photos, download them, look at comments on the photos, depending on the settings that I've set up. Of course, that's up to you. If you don't trust your crews to put in good notes, then you might want to turn this off. Although I would strongly recommend training your crews to take good photos and good notes. They become an integral part of a good communicative relationship with customers. Heard stories from lots of users in the past who used Job Site Watch, which was the old version of this, as one of their greatest marketing tools they had. And by training their foreman to write good notes, and that would include things like positive comments about the job site. It could include things like changes in their gardens, especially new stuff coming up in bloom. It could include things like wildlife or insects that have been noticed in the garden that are contributing to the overall health of their customers' outdoor environment. And then maybe most importantly for you, it also could be a way to suggest subtly or not so subtly improvements, enhancements, or recommendations. So well-trained foremen can become awesome sales tools via the customer portal. But at the very worst, it's a great marketing tool for the customer to feel good that your crews are taking good care of them while they're out there. And good notes and good photos are an awesome way to show that. Closing that down, if you have customers with lots of job sites, you can also use the set radius tool to drill into smaller areas. Now that's a view of the map. If you want to drive into the individual details, your customers can set a date range here, and they'll see all the details of each visit. And of course, they can open the visit again, review it, download or print the details or the photos. Customers also have the ability to view the scheduled work at their job. So I can do that by clicking the Visit Schedule tab, should you have chosen to share it. I'll just expand my date range here to the end of August, and you can see here, these are all the visits I've scheduled from now until the end of August. And you can sort them, and they'll show up as scheduled or completed based on their status in LMN. And again, customer can download or print that as necessary. So this gives our customers the ability to see their job sites and the services that we've rendered. Once you invoice for those jobs, the customers can click here and see the status of any invoices. So these are the invoices I've assigned to the customer and what's been paid and what's due and what's overdue. So one of the new changes you'll see in LMN is that we've added a due date to estimates, to invoices, as well as a default due date, which is a number of days, that will then is used to show the customers whether the invoice is due or overdue. Paying an invoice is as easy as this. I may have or I may not have already set up a credit card. In my case, I have. So one way to set up a credit card is to go to my profile and to add a payment method. There's another way I can just pay the credit card right online. So if customers are uncomfortable or hesitant to save their credit card to their profile, they can certainly just pay any invoice directly. So we'll click the invoice here. The invoice will show me the amount and any payments that have already been made. If no payments have been made, it looks like mine and says 0. To make a payment, they simply click check out. Now, when they click check out, if they don't have a payment set up here, they can add one, and this will just apply to this one transaction. We won't save it. But if they do want to save it for recurring transactions, there's a simple checkbox to allow them to do that as well. While we're on the credit card note, just like everybody to know for confidence that all the credit card information is stored with the merchant account at Card Connect, who's our preferred credit card processor. We don't store any credit card information in LMN databases, and it's all PCI compliant, which means Card Connect is held responsible to PCI standards, which protect the confidentiality of your customers' names and credit cards. Neither your account nor even our LMN databases store that information. It goes directly to Card Connect. Once your customers are comfortable with the payment amount, now they can pay the full amount of the invoice, or they can click here the pencil button and change that amount. They can change whatever they want. They can click the Pay Now button, and the invoice will come back as paid. I'll close that down. I can see my payment history here on the Payment History tab, and that would include not only payments made online via credit card, but also payments made by check. So you can enter now in LMN time payments against invoices. So for example, we'll bring up a job with some invoices. So I go here and I go to an invoice. One way you can enter a payment now is to use this brand new payments option. So I can go here, I can click add payment. I can choose the invoice they want to pay, and then it'll automatically process a payment for me. Now in this case, I have one invoice, but I've already paid it. The balance is 0, and that's what it's showing there. So you can see here, this is the payment record that I previously entered for the invoice. It includes a payment number, so that could be a check number, for instance, the payment date, and the method. Notes if you need it, the invoice number that was paid, the date the invoice was, what the invoice amount was, what the remaining balance is, and what that current payment amount is. So that allows me to enter a payment manually. So if you have customers who are still sending you checks or cash or any other method of payment that's not online, you can enter payments here. For customers that do pay their invoices online, these payments will be automatically created for you as soon as the customer pays online. So it'll show you the invoice balance, it'll show you the payments made, and it'll have a reference in that payment that you can click to get a transaction number so that you can cross-reference that with your credit card payment records and reconciliation records automatically. Next up in the customer portal, finally, is the user section. Now, some customers may want to add other users to their portal. So once you invite the main person at the customer, they have the ability to invite other users. And that could be users like accounting users who may be responsible for paying invoices or reconciling payments, or it could be just basic users. That could be facility managers, et cetera, at their sites who they just want to view job site history record, but not necessarily have any ability to enter credit cards or process payments or anything like that. And that's a good wrap up of what's inside the customer portal, but also a good wrap up of what we've added to LMN. So to recap, we've added estimate progress billing for standard estimates, and that exists in both estimating and in time. We've added the ability to progress bill for installation estimates in LMN time. We've added the customer portal. We've added the ability to enter and save payments in LMN against invoices and track them. And then, of course, we've given you a brand new tool instead of Job Site Watch that allows you to interact with your customer in a whole brand new way, ways that customers are getting more and more familiar with as we move further and further into this new age of technology. We're super confident that those of you who adopt the portal and those of you that enter into new, more transparent relationships with your customers are going to see a huge improvement in not only your customer relationships, but your ability to sell and maintain contracts. Speaking personally from experience, once we implemented these tools at our landscape company, TBG Environmental, we were able to procure some new and different types of contracts and clients that we had never yet tapped into before. And most of these contracts and clients were A, larger, B, more professional, C, higher paying. So they're typically more demanding customers, but at the same time, they're customers who are willing to pay a fair price for excellent service. And provided you can stand behind that excellent service, now you've got a tool that'll help you share your excellence with your customer and give them that peace of mind. I guarantee if you take it for a run on a couple of sales calls, you're going to see some eyes light up on your customer, and certainly hope to hear some stories. Okay, I'd like to take the last bit of time here we have on this webinar to jump into some questions and answers. Before we do that, just wanted to remind everybody that, especially those of you who are newer to LMN, in LMN estimating, there's still the forms library there. So if you haven't seen that, there are over 700 Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, templates, policies, procedures, employee handbooks, employee evaluations, just about anything you need to run your landscape company from a documentation perspective is in there. And if you're building stuff, we're bringing this up because it's spring and you're probably getting a lot of this stuff ready. So if you're looking to build systems in your company, take a look at our forms library. There's tons of stuff in there that can help you build those policies and procedures a lot faster. For those of you that have questions about LMN and about want to maybe network with other users, we've got a Facebook user group and an LMN user group. And if you haven't joined that already, feel free to join. Not only will we monitor that and answer some questions, but you'll also get some real life stories and experiences from other users, which can be super helpful. And then finally, just wanted to remind everybody of the various tools that are available for you to learn not only the new customer portal and the new features, but all of LMN. So it's spring, and we find our users are either in one of two camps. You're either fairly new to LMN and you really need to get up and learning fast, or in other cases, you've used LMN for a couple of years, but you still aren't using some of it to its full potential. And so in these environments, we can help you unlock everything that LMN has to offer by teaching your staff more about it. There's the LMN Academy, which is our online training. Of course, I want to make sure everybody knows they've got the one-to-one support. You can do that on live chat or phone call. We're still offering our LMN virtual workshops. In fact, more webinars than ever. If you've paid attention to our calendar, we've had something going every week and sometimes multiple times a week. And that includes our LMN webinar series, which are tips and tricks from landscape industry experts, not only ourselves, but some of our clients who are doing new and innovative and amazing things. For those of you just recently, we've had bonus and incentive systems, we've had company culture, and we had one of our members actually do a live show on how they were going to adjust their budget to deal with the uncertainties of this year and everything happening. So some really fantastic stuff there. Be sure to watch out. I'll flip it over to questions now. Moderators, have you got anything for me that may have come up during the webinar?
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you very much. So the first question here is, how does the customer portal interact with QuickBooks?
Excellent. So invoices, just as they've always done, get exported to QuickBooks just like always. So you can sync your invoices to QuickBooks. As the payments come in, they are also going to be exported to QuickBooks. Now that goes live probably Tuesday next week. It's just in final testing for both online and desktop, but by the time any customer makes an invoice, you'll have that both for online and desktop. So as the payments get made, we can sync those payments to QuickBooks. They will record a payment against that QuickBooks invoice, both in LMN and QuickBooks. So super easy.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. Next question. Can you set up ACH wire transfer payments or credit cards only?
Yes, ACH is also available and may be a really nice option for those who are doing install and design build work. So as the jobs get bigger and the prices get higher, ACH payments are a nice way to still give your customer a way to pay electronically, but at a significantly lower fee than a credit card payment. So a nice tool there. Nice tool for your customer. It's easier to pay. They don't have to make checks. You know, not that many people are dealing every day with checks anymore. But also nice for the contractor. I mean, to save yourself a bunch of evening trips visiting customers to to pick up checks, and some of them aren't home or don't have it ready or every other excuse in the book, ACH can be a nice time and overhead saving tool as a way to accept payments for those larger jobs.
That's great. Let's see who we have here. Ben's asking, when sending a customer invite to the portal, it populates the contact, but does not populate the contact's email address, even though it is saved under the contact. Will this have to be hard keyed?
No, just press the plus button beside the contact. So when you choose the drop down of the contact, there's a little plus button right beside it. As soon as you click the plus button, that will add that contact's email to the space below. And then you can repeat that process as many times as necessary for as many people you want to add.
That's great. Tyler is asking, is there an ability to have an email alert set up when completing a maintenance service?
Not yet, Tyler. We are working on that for phase 2, though. Expanding the notifications is something that we're currently working on. Just to give you a tiny bit of backstory, it's just a little more, we need to be a little more careful with it than just simply sending a notification every time a service is rendered. So there are times, for example, where you might be editing a timesheet after the fact, maybe days later, or editing a timesheet, putting it back in progress, adding a job that got forgot, and then noting it there. So we want to make sure that when we are notifying the customers, that we are to every possible extent minimizing the number of false notifications or confusing notifications. And so we're taking all those things into account. A notification itself would be simple, but a smart notification, slightly more complicated, but it is coming. That's high up on our radar. First, you'll see the estimates going live and the requests for enhancements. That's our next immediate go live project on the portal, and notifications is right after that.
Thanks, Mike. We have Chris here. On the invoice screen in the customer portal, how do you make the status due?
It's driven by the due date on the invoice itself. So in LMN time, there's a new field on the invoice screen, which is due date. So the invoice will become due as soon as the due date is in the future or has been set. Once the due date is passed, that invoice will show as overdue. So the logic's all built in there for you.
Fantastic. George, one of our Canadian friends, is it possible to bill as a percentage complete per work area and apply holdbacks?
Yes, on the billage percent by work area. So one of the options when you do your milestones is to do it by work area. So that will then split up your percentage billing by each work area, and the customer will see that. I need to know a little more information about the holdbacks. That's sort of a bigger question. I wouldn't say specifically holdbacks are covered in the milestone things, but it might be. I would need a little bit more information to answer that properly.
Thanks, Mike. Can I use the invoice feature but not show job site information?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one simple checkbox. It says show actual information or show actual service information. It's both on the customer screen and the portal default settings. You turn that off and all your actual visit information will hide. So you could just show the invoices, or you could just show scheduled invoices, whatever combination of that you'd like.
Great. Do you have to have LMN Pro for the photo uploads?
Yes, you do. Yeah. Only LMN Pro users have the ability to take photos in the field through the timesheet app or upload photos from time as well. So yes, if you want to share photos, you're going to need to be a Pro member.
That's great, Mike. And we have time for one more question here. The last question is there an additional charge to use the customer portal through LMN?
Oh, that's my favorite question. It's free. Nope. It's our big new update for this year. It's something that will be included both in basic and pro packages. It's a way, again, to help you differentiate yourself. Obviously, our mission from day one, teaching companies how to budget, was to help them build better, more professional businesses. And this tool is going to be an essential tool in our contractors toolkit to do exactly that. And so Limiting it to people that were just going to pay for it didn't seem to make sense. This gives everybody a leg up, and we're more than happy to continue to innovate and continue to develop these kind of new and powerful tools, thanks to the continued support and growth of our membership. So just a thank you to all of you who've A, sat in on this webinar, and B, have become LMN customers and have entrusted your business, your customers, your employees to us. And we certainly hope that we're making a positive difference in your companies, like we've heard so many stories about. So thanks again.
Thanks very much, Mike.